Hello and welcome back. Let's continue this journey together. This is a course on why you should have a business coach, and we're trying to make a strong case, strong we believe that every business should have access to a business coach. So in the presentation so far, we've been trying to talk about at a very high abstract level the benefits of having a business coach and how they would benefit you, how they would help you. Now let's shift the gears slightly and let's talk about very specific terms. So if you have at this point in the presentation decided that perhaps it does make sense for you to entertain the possibility and you're going to perhaps interview someone, these are some of the talking points. So in these few couple of slides, you will go through some of the discussions, some of the concrete areas where the coaches could potentially help you, and then you need to decide if these areas are relevant for you and for your organization or not. And if they are, then the coach must be able to provide support in these specific areas. Here are some of the areas, what they can do for you. We've talked about this multiple times to help you develop the big picture view. But how really would they do that? They cannot just go home and come back with a vision for your future. This is your future, which is based on where your company are today, what your mission statement is, and what products and services do you guys have on the roadmap. So they need to obviously interview you. But exactly are they looking for? What kind of input, what kind of feedback are they looking for, and how would they develop this big picture view? So this is where the coach would need to give you some very concrete things that they have done for the other clients, and how they were able to not just create a picture first, but then they were able to really to get to the actual roadmap of getting there. How will they support you with your operations? We have made this case multiple times again in this presentation that it's not enough for you to have a good crystallized view of the future and for all the executive team and the partners and the suppliers, everyone to be on the same page on that. That's clearly a given for a company to grow, but you cannot do this while not focusing on the day-to-day operations. So if you've got any stumbling blocks, if you've got any areas for improvement, if you've got quality issues, for example, if you've got lack of communication, you've got a lot of reruns for your jobs, you've got issues with your communication, with your development standards, with your documentation standards. These are the issues that will really derail your operation if you're trying to build a strong, big foundation on top of this. This really has to be streamlined. Your foundation has to be really strong and robust, and this is where the coaches would again come in and help you. So the basic support for your operations. So again, how would they do it? What skills do they have in this area? This is rather domain specific as well. So within your line of work, how what they have done and what they can see, and in the couple of interviews that you may already have had with these individuals, they need to let you know what they have seen so far and how they would go about doing this. Let's keep going. How would they identify your weak areas? What skills, what background, what experience do they have to figure out where you are not following the best practices, what the best practices are in the first place, and what would it take for you and for your team to be able to get back on track and to do things the right way. How would they identify your weak areas? What kind of access would they need to have to you and for your personnel to be able to identify this? Would they just like to be a fly in the wall and observe and make notes and come back with recommendations? Or if they would want to be a part of the operation itself to try and figure out where you might not be hitting all the checkpoints. So again, the question here would be, how would they go about doing this? Let's continue. How would they make you focus on what's important? How would they first determine what's important for the company? And again, this prioritization is not just is not etched in stone. It's a function of where you are in your journey. So how would they ascertain that? What questions do they need to ask you? What insight do they need to develop? And how would they do this? And once they have got made their own determination, how would they be able to translate that over to you and to your operational team? So in terms of what's important for you. Help with financial plans. So this again is more of a function of the roadmap that you need to be, your cash flow analysis for today, your access to capital to support your growth in the future. How would you do this if it's new money coming in by increased sales, or is it new debt that you might be incurring for the organization? This is where they need to clearly lay out the whole detailed plan on how you would grow and to your ultimate targets in the future. They need to be able to help you with your employment plans. Again, here we're talking about some very specific things, right? So, in your employment plans, who are the type of people who you currently have on board? Is everyone a good fit for what they do for your organization? Do they have the right skills and the right background, the right resources, and the right tools to be able to function to the best capabilities? And if not, then what changes must we make? What changes should we make today? And what changes should we make in our future plans to have always access to the right team available to work for us? Now, as a part of the employment plan, also has to be your vendor management plan. That oftentimes you might need to have very specific skills that you need, but you may not necessarily need to bring those people on board on a full-time basis. So again, the question would be, what would they do? What would they recommend? How would they make the assertion in terms of what you need, and how would would they document it? How would they communicate that to the team, and what specific steps would they recommend you take today and tomorrow and next month and next quarter to get there? And finally, how will they hold you accountable? Now, clearly, you're only as good as your word if you have really committed to what your coach is telling you. So, more than them holding you accountable, this is really a question for you looking inwards to see how accountable you are to this program. Clearly, we have, as you made the comment earlier, that if you have made a determination in your mind at this point in this presentation that perhaps this is something you should seriously consider, so the question here is really on you. How serious are you with this determination? That if you really want to make this happen, then you need to hold yourself accountable as much as you want to hold your coach accountable. So let's continue. In this slide, we talked about what they can do. Let's now talk about what they need to bring to the table. Again, as we have mentioned earlier, that where you are and what you need, what specific support is needed for you, that's really a function of where you are on your journey. So the more they're able to understand you, the more they'll be able to offer that. But then again, they need to have the right skills. If you are, for example, looking for an extensive amount of help and process improvement on the manufacturing side, but the person you are talking to doesn't have a strong background in that area, then no matter how strong they might be in the other areas of your operation, they may not be a good fit. Similarly, if you're trying to raise capital to support the new product innovation, and this person has never raised capital before in their career, then again they may not be a good fit. So as you're trying to interview potentially, hope probably multiple potential possibilities, these are the types of questions you need to be going over. What knowledge do they have in their operations, in the customers, about the marketplace, about the product that you have, about your customers? Who are your customers? Why are they buying from you? What exactly are they seeking from the products that they're buying from you? What challenges they are facing in their lives, and therefore the products are your product that you offer is solving those problems. They need to be able to really understand this. How well do they know this? Similarly, about the operational processes, whether it's digital transformation itself or digitization of your products or your operations, how comfortable they are with these technologies. Contacts. Do they have any contacts within the marketplace, within the industry? If you need to grow, who would you talk to? If you need to have someone to come in and take a look at your ERP, for example, would they be able to make a few phone calls? If you're having some manufacturing issue related to one particular type of machine, whether it's the power supply or the installation of the product, would they be able to make a few phone calls for you and make a connection with someone? Again, the person with the strongest Rolodex would be a good asset for your organization. That person sort of becomes the go-to person, whatever questions you might be dealing with at any given point in time. Industry experience. Most of the work today has become so specialized that a generic jack of all trade person may not really work out for everyone. So the question here would be that given where you are on your journey, what kind of industry experience do you require for your organization? And then, by extension, what does a person have to offer? Which are the companies which they have worked with? What results have they been able to achieve for them? How well do they know the industry? How well do they know the trends? How well do they understand where we are today and where we are headed tomorrow? And what's around the corner? And how do you get to wherever we need to be tomorrow? How well do they understand the entire landscape? This is really for them to help you understand. Clearly, the more they understand, the more they know the space, the better they will be qualified to be able to help you get there. Best practices. Similar to the industry experience, within the industry, what are some of the best practices that every company must be deploying, especially if they want to be on the path for massive growth? What are those practices? What are the limitations that can potentially prevent some of those practices from being deployed? And how do you circumvent, how do you go around those limitations? For them to truly be able to understand it themselves and then to translate that over to you into your operational guides. This is again what the coach must be able to provide for you. The context to everything you do. Remember in the earlier slide we talked about prioritization of your tasks, of everything that you do, and how do you stay focused. You stay focused, you prioritize everything based on the context, where you are on the journey, which items are the most critical. If you've got a major product release, for example, scheduled for next week, so right now all your resources are managing that, then everything else that comes on the plate will potentially have to take a back seat while you continue your focus on the main thing. So the context drives what you're focusing on, what you're working on. But then again, extending the same example, if other customers are facing issues with other parts of your product, you cannot put them hostage just because your core team is functioning, was working on the next product release. That's clearly the strategy that you must develop, depending upon your product itself, depending upon your quality issues, depending upon the whole range of contextual issues that somebody must be able to look at and help you identify how you should allocate the resources for different areas of your organization. The vision and roadmap. How would they be able to do this? How would they be able to develop the vision that they must have first and then you must have as well at the same time? And what roadmap would they develop? Would they be able to help you develop a financial roadmap or a technological roadmap or a sales roadmap? How would they be able to do this? And what part of the roadmap would then be able to hold your hand and help you walk through? And finally, how would you recover from failure? So once this person comes on board, you can clearly expect for things to not always go according to the plan. That'll be the best case scenario when nothing ever goes off the path and everything falls into place and things happen as expected. Clearly, we have seen that in the real world, and exceptions happen all the time. How would you deal with them? What level of recovery would you need? And when you're in the midst of it, how would you prioritize? So again, crisis management is an extensive area. It's one of our specialties as well. And if you want to follow the links that we provide elsewhere in the training session, you can see some of the other courses that we've got available on that topic. But here, this is at the very basic level. What skills would the person have in crisis management, and how would they help you recover from failures if something starts going off the track? All right, so these are in these couple of slides we talked about some of the talking points you must have or you should have at your disposal when you're potentially interviewing somebody else, somebody for this position. Let's now talk about a success roadmap strategy. It's a framework and you would really benefit with the next few slides. Let's keep going.